Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 300, Learning to Be with Our Feelings Again, with Claire Garner. Well, this month is going to be all about being and being still and taking a moment and having that bravery to be your authentic self. And I have two guests on this month to help us get into that. But in order to do that, we have to reconnect with our feelings and I think truly be able to sit with them, or we simply cannot truly be in touch with ourselves. We can't be confident. We can't have good relationships. And that is why I am so excited to finally have Claire Garner on the show today, because that is just what she does. Claire is an intuitive emotional healing guide who helps people feel their emotions with clarity and compassion, so they can stop looping in pain and finally shift the patterns that keep them stuck. She's the creator of the Intuitive Emotional Healing Framework, a practical and body-led process that teaches people how to understand, work with, and release the emotional energy underneath their thoughts and behaviors. Through private sessions and her incredible online community, the Conscious Heart Academy, Claire helps people build emotional resilience, deepen their self-trust, and create a more peaceful, aligned relationship with themselves. All right, so I don't want to keep us waiting any longer. Here's Claire. Thank you, Claire, so much for agreeing to be on the show. I am so tickled. I've looked so forward to having you here. When I found one of your videos, I stopped it and said, wait a minute, who is that? I've got to have her on the show.
Oh, wow.
She's so groovy. Got to check her out. So thank you for taking time today to be here because I want my people to hear you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
That's great. So in a nutshell, what do you do? Like, how do you help people?
In a nutshell,
Mm-hmm.
I'm inviting folks to come home to themselves and treat themselves like a person again. A huge part of the work that I do is us recognizing our own humanity and making space for our human experience instead of powering through, skipping over, pushing down, coping with all of the experiences that we have. So it's really about slowing down, connecting to yourself, rewiring your brain to be your friend, and then learning to actually be in your body when you're feeling things and move them through so that we're not suppressing things anymore. We're having healthy, competent, emotional expression.
Wow. Okay. That's just, let that sink in for a moment, guys, what she's sharing. And I think the timing of your work is so impeccable because of all of what we're learning and talking about in terms of trauma and somatic awareness and neuroscience and being present and being mindful and healing, actually healing and not just talking about it. So that's what's so exciting. And that's what really got me when I was listening to your video that day, that fits perfectly with the work that I like to talk about with people around coming back to who you are, like you said, really taking ownership of the self. And like you and I have talked about before, disowning is the problem.
Yes.
Re-owning and getting back to is the magic. But I sit with clients all the time who, with varying levels of trauma, they're afraid of their emotions, especially their anger, right?
Yeah.
Or they think the sadness is going to swallow them or the grief is going to be a giant abyss. And so things like that. So that's why I'm really excited about the work that you do. I think it's so needed.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to learn to be with our feelings again. It's like the most important piece of really caring for ourselves. When we think of self-care, we think of like going to get a pedicure or like getting yourself an iced coffee or taking a vacation or getting a massage. But when I think of self-care, it's truly, hold on, human, you just felt something back there. Wow. And if I'm going to stop and make room for you, I've got to slow down. I've got to value that. I've got to recognize that you deserve space and validation for how you're feeling. And so true self-care is treating yourself like a person. It's like having your best friend with you and going, hey, I saw that back there. Like you really felt something. Like let's pause and metabolize that before we keep going.
Wow. That's beautifully said. So what brought you to this work? How did you start doing this kind of work with people? What's that journey?
You know, this is actually the hardest question for me to answer of all of the questions because it's not linear. So right. I'll give you a bird's eye view. I have always been self-reflective. I have always been deeply emotional, definitely an empath. Mm-hmm. I've always just understood human interactions from an emotional standpoint and been a deep communicator. And in 2013, I had just gone through a bunch of littler traumas that had all kind of built on each other. And I found myself really needing to show up for myself in a new way. And I found Louise Hay, actually, that summer of 2013. I found her mirror workbook. And there was an exercise in there that I think honestly was the first formal, I don't know if you'd call it like spiritual healing practice or first formal practice I'd ever really done. And the exercise just has you sit in front of a mirror, make eye contact with yourself and say, Claire, say your own name, Claire, I forgive you for. And I read those words on the page and I thought, okay, fine, I can do that. I had no response emotionally when I read them.
Right.
But sitting there looking in my own eyes and hearing myself say out loud, Claire, I forgive you for, I instantly burst into tears. And for the next 2+ hours on and off, I was apologizing to myself for things that I didn't even know I was carrying. There was some magic there in hearing myself say it out loud and then seeing the expression on my face as I metabolized what I was admitting to me.
Wow.
So that kind of started me on this awareness that I can show up and be my friend. But as happens for a lot of us, I think you click into a new practice and then you click out, right? Kind of like fall back into your human stuff. And so from 2013 to 2020, I dabbled. I would kind of go in and out. I would show up for myself. I was still journaling all the time. I was still very self-reflective, but I wasn't doing anything formal outside of, in 2019, I started meditating with Joe Dispenza's meditation practices. So that had gotten me a little bit more in my body and aware that we have energy centers in our body. So anyway, that was all that I had in 2019. Things turned and I started into this work in 2020. And as happened for most of us that year, things got loud and it was a hard time for everybody. And I found myself almost overnight going from living with my sister and my 2 little nephews who were 1 and 4 years old. And my brother-in-law, I went from living with them to living by myself very quickly. My sister and I just arrived at a point in our relationship where, you know, with siblings, you grow apart and you come together and you grow apart and you come together. And it's this ebb and flow that happens in our familial relationships. And we were just at a place where we needed more space. And that was a really tough time for that to be happening. I'd just gotten my heart broken. Like literally within a week, I got my heart broken, got broken up with, and my sister just asked for more space and asked me to move out. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was December of 2020. So that is kind of when I had like a little bit of a come to Jesus moment. I was like, all right, Claire, you're baking sheets of sugar cookies, you're frosting them, and you're eating all of them in 24 hours. Like, is this really how we're going to deal with this pain?
Right.
How many more pounds do we need to put on here before we're going to turn and make a different choice? So I remember Louise Hay, and during that time I had moved into a house. I was house sitting for 4 months. All of a sudden I needed housing, and within a week this just landed in my lap out of nowhere. Such a beautiful synchronicity. Wow. So I was house sitting on the water in Freeport, Maine. And so I just found over that winter, 2020 into 2021, I would have loneliness bubble up, or overwhelm, or feelings of isolation, or feelings of not being seen or held by community, or whatever it was. My social circle was so small. I'd gone through so much winnowing that year that anytime my heart hurt, I just got into this habit of stopping what I was doing and going to this mirror that they had in the front entryway. And I would just make eye contact with myself. And sometimes I didn't even say anything, but I would just let myself cry, and I would witness my own process.
Whoa.
And that's really what changed it for me. Like consistently showing up for myself, consistently witnessing my own pain, consistently valuing my own resilience, and really, validating myself. That is what shifted this process for me. So since then, and really into 2021, that's kind of when I started to document what was going on, and I started to share it with close people in my life. And I kept getting these little invitations to start offering what I was learning about human emotional expression, and just the way that I was processing my emotions and finding such deep relief on the other side. I think that was the big thing. It was like, I'm not just swirling in this. This is moving through when I'm witnessing it. So I was coming up with this way of showing up for myself that felt beautiful and nourishing and connected and deep, and allowed me resilience and relief on the other side. And that felt just so transformational. So I don't know if you're very familiar with human design, but I'm an emotional projector, and emotional projectors like need an invitation. And so over 2020 or 2021 rather, I was getting invitations from close people in my life, but then I had a psychic through a friend say, I'd given them permission to ask about what was going on with me. And the psychic, not knowing me at all, said, well, it looks like midwinter, Claire's going to transition into helping people heal their trauma. And she thinks that she needs to have a lot more put together, but she should just start now.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And so the emotional projector in me that needs the invitation, I was like, okay, that's it. That's all that I need. So in October of 2021, I was like, here we go. And that's when I started offering the framework that I call intuitive emotional healing to folks.
Wow. What a journey. What a beautiful story. And it all played out just as it should, right? And
exactly. As it always does. Yeah.
And I just think it's so powerful when you do your own healing, you can truly help another.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's why we go through things. I think that's why we have the aha moments, and we realize and we recognize, and then we know how important it is, because we're also the recipient, not only the teacher.
Yes, exactly.
Right. You're the student first, and then that makes you one hell of a teacher, I think, or it can.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the deepest learning that I have done with others is listening to their lived experience. You know, we're taught so much in school, theories and ways that things should be, but so much of the time, those things aren't practical in our real lives. And so when you're sitting with another human and you're listening to their experience, and then you're hearing their aha moments, and you're doing that with yourself, the learning is so much deeper because it resonates and you relate at such a deep level. I feel like change happens more quickly when we're able to resonate at that depth.
I totally agree. We resonate with each other's humanity.
Yes.
And that's what helps us bond.
Yep.
You can't bond without being vulnerable, and you can't bond up in your head. You just can't do that.
Exactly.
You have great conversations, but you can't bond.
Exactly. Yep.
And I believe that if you do nothing else in your therapeutic journey, if you can learn how to grieve, you can do everything else.
Oh, gosh.
And you can do anything, right? Because if you do that, I think that that is such a recognition of self on so many levels. And the trauma that's trapped in your body and trapped in your right brain and things like that. and just really validating the self. I mean, the mirror work is it's so powerful because of what it actually is, you seeing yourself, but also what it symbolizes. It's all the damn mirroring that no one else could ever give you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I talk about mirror work with folks, this is sort of how I like to outline it. It's like, think about all of the people that you love the most in your life. And you think about one of them sitting in front of you and they're having a hard time and you're just listening. When you're listening to them, you are getting so much information from them and feeling it and connecting. You're getting to see the expression on their face. You're hearing their word choice. You're hearing their inflection. You're reading their body language. You're feeling the energy coming off of them. There's so much data there for you to hear. Are they saying everything that's on their heart? Like sometimes you can detect like there's something way deeper here than what they're saying, right? But because you're paying attention to all the information, you can pick that up. Sometimes you can tell that they're holding something back or they're lying to themselves, or you can just feel the depth of their pain and you just connect there. You just hold them there and your heart goes out to them, right? Like we feel such deep compassion when we connect deeply with another person. And so you think about with yourself, we don't take in that information with ourselves.
Right.
We don't speak out loud to ourselves, most of us, unless we're engaged in a healing framework. We don't make eye contact and take in our facial expression and our body language when we're in pain. And so that's the magic of mirror work. It's finally filling in all of the data that you've been missing over the years, that you've been taking in from everybody else, but you haven't been taking it in around you. And so this helps us to like connect to our own compassion for ourselves. But also, I was just mentioning, you can tell when someone that you love is not fully giving you the whole story. You can then start doing that with yourself. It helps you to illuminate your own blind spots when you start getting really good at this. So mirror work is so transformational.
That's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And I was just sitting here as I was listening to you, because I'm a verbal processor, I learn out loud, and being so hypervigilant around other people's expressions can happen for people if they grew up in homes where that was necessary to kind of survive, even just survive emotionally, right? And so you become so vigilant to everyone else's stuff, you would also by default then have to subvert all and disconnect from all your own stuff.
Yeah, so this can bring it back online. So in the beginning with mirror work, people can go, I don't like what I'm seeing. It's too distracting. Like if you've really abandoned yourself over the years and you really have diminished your own experience, the beginning of mirror work is the hardest for those folks because you have to sit with where you're starting from. And so it is not this lovely connected process in the beginning. It takes a lot of courage to sit with yourself and go, wow, I'm really judging actually this person that I'm seeing in the mirror. I actually don't think that their feelings are valid. I actually don't think their experiences are worth listening to. And then we get to see the look on our face that we're feeling that about ourselves. And so a huge part of the work that I do is helping us reframe our perspective of ourselves as a human being on the same level with all the other human beings. I always say you've got to give yourself an equal seat at the table. So part of this is like, this is why rewiring our brains and the way that we think about ourselves is such an integral part of this work, because if we're just feeling our feelings, but we have the same limiting perspective of ourselves and who we are and our own validity, we're not going to get to that place where we're connecting into our own humanity. We're going to stay separate from ourselves and continue to generate the same discomfort, the same suffering, the same self-judgment. And so we have to start reorienting the way we look at and frame ourselves if we're really going to do this work.
Exactly. Because like you said, it's going to make such a difference in terms of what you do with that information you're giving yourself in the mirror. If you don't have acceptance and compassion, if you have shame, it's going to feel like incoming, like an attack. And you got to wring out the shame sponge just enough to really have compassion and acceptance and love for the lived experiences. So, yeah. And I think also we have to have safe people to do it with.
Exactly. Safety is paramount in this work. You have to feel safe. But you think about with yourself, if self-judgment is a part of your process, you're not going to have the safety that you need to get there, which is why that really looking at our perspective of ourselves, the story we're telling ourselves about ourselves is so important. It's one of the primary things that we do. People ask me like, how can I cry better? And I'm like, we're not talking about that yet. How are you thinking about you first?
Right.
We can't get to you providing space for yourself to melt until your brain is your friend. So let's start there.
Well said. So talk about your intuitive emotional healing work. What is your framework that you bring to people?
Yeah. So there are two big arms to it, which we've kind of been alluding to already. So you have your brain and you have your heart. And this work looks at the relationship between the two and helps to create a new relationship that actually helps them to work together and not be at odds. When we're coping with our feelings and pushing things down, our brain is going, heart, I hear you, and we're not going there. Sorry. Nope, not right now. We've got other things to do, right? So they're not holding hands. They're not supporting one another. And so the two arms of this work to facilitate that process are practical awareness of our brains. We've got to actually start to listen to, what is my brain saying to me all day? Is it my friend? Are the things that it's repeating to me helping me to grow and step into expansion and hold myself lovingly accountable and create the relationship in the life that I want? And if the answer is no, which for most of us, that's the right, or that's the answer in the beginning, it is no. Like, no, my brain is a terrible place to be. It's not relaxing. It's not my friend. That's okay. That's most humans walking the planet. That's where we're starting from. So if that's not the case, then we've got to start to notice it, decide what we do want, and help reshape our brain and our thought process. Like really catch ourselves when we're in the middle of a disempowered narrative, catch ourselves when we're in the middle of that self-judgment, and really work to cultivate a brain that is kind. So there's so many practices that go along with that. I have so many little tools that help people really start to notice what their brain is doing, but then also connect what's happening in their brain to what they're literally feeling, and literally feeling from a sensation perspective in their body, because your brain, you do have a response to the thoughts that you're thinking, and it shows up in the form of sensation in your body, which creates emotion. Like right. Our emotions create sensations in our body, but we miss them a lot of the time. So we've got to be able to correlate, oh, I'm having a thought, but I'm also having a bodily sensation at the same time. So what is that telling me? So we've got to spend more time in our bodies. Okay. So we're cultivating awareness of our brains, and we're cultivating awareness of our bodies and our actual sensations. That's one arm of my work. But the other arm is literal competent feeling. How do we literally get you to a place where when your feelings come up, you don't resist them?
Right.
You actually come down into your body and feel the thing. And the biggest part about competent feeling is training your brain, again, to be supportive of you when you're having a hard time. The last thing you need when you're in a deep feeling is for your brain to be going, oh, and they're terrible for this reason. And oh gosh, out in the future, this is what could happen because of what's going on right now. And well, wait, if I had done this different, maybe I wouldn't be in this position. If your brain is just chewing on all of the different pieces of the thing that's upsetting you in the first place, oh man, we're not getting through that without some shrapnel. Like that's going to be a really difficult situation. We're going to create a lot of suffering. We're going to drown in it. We're going to get lost in it. We're going to feed it. We're not actually going to release the emotion. So incompetent feeling, we've got to learn to help our brains be supportive to the release of the emotion. And that's literally by helping them be quiet and just create a space that's kind. So it's really practical. This work is, there's lots of mindset stuff we do that helps you to view yourself as a valid human being, that really encourages you to speak to yourself kindly and acknowledge the wonderful parts about you. But the actual pieces of practice that we get in this work, they're very applicable. That's something that I have really tried hard in this work, is to make things easy to understand.
Right.
Like our emotional experiences can feel so amorphous and so like intangible. So I've really tried to break them down in a way that is like clear cut and easy to follow, and then give people simple step-by-step ways to get into their bodies, to feel their emotions, and actually apply this in their day to day. I want it to be practical, because so much of our healing is theoretical and it's like big existential picture stuff. And it's a lot of our perspective shifting, but there isn't a whole lot out there that I have found that actually helps us step by step get into our bodies and like do the work every day.
You are so correct. And then what happens is the instant shame that kicks in and the guilt that they can't do it, that they
Right.
can't tap into that big, woo-woo stuff. And it's too big. It's unreachable yet, right? There's this gap. And I think, the simplicity of what you are talking about is amazing because it can, beliefs are everything, right? Which is kind of what you're talking
Yep.
about as well. It's like,
Yep.
if people can see themselves saying, ooh, I think I could try that. Like that doesn't seem like rocket science, or it doesn't seem unattainable.
Yep.
Because so many people, hello, in this space are stuck. They're frozen. They're so
Yep.
damn frozen. They don't know where to begin. They don't trust their beginnings.
Yep.
Or maybe they've been betrayed by therapeutic processes, therapists, all the things they've been told, all the things they've tried. And like you are saying, they probably tried a lot, but kept it up in their head. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And,
or we click in for a couple days and we click back out again.
Right.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. And I love how you talk about understanding the brain and how it is not connected. You don't want to connect with it in the moment when you're trying to sit in a feeling because it's going to keep you from doing that.
Exactly. Your brain is not your friend when you're having a hard time. Your brain wants to be in the backseat, quiet, holding space. Eventually, we want the brain to be a loving, like maternal or paternal sort of player in it. Like our ultimate goal is that when you're feeling deeply, you are this. Okay, let me give you my favorite way to paint this. In this work, we are working toward you being your mother and the mother or father and the child at the same time. So this is the way that I think about it. When your heart is hurting, it's like the mother is inside doing dishes and there's a knock at the door and she knows that's her little girl who's like been out in the rain, who's just gotten her heart broken, and she needs her mom and she needs to cry. She needs to feel safe. And so in the moment where we recognize, oh my God, she needs me, we put down, we dry our hands off, we run to the door, we fling it open. And we are the mother who gathers the sopping wet, crying daughter into our arms and we let her cry. And we're also the daughter at the same moment who's being held by her mom in safety and letting it all out. Like that's where we're going.
Whoa. That is amazing.
That is how it feels, truly. That is when I cry, that is how I feel. I feel simultaneously like I am both. But in the beginning, that is not the experience. We have to build that safety. We've been talking about safety. Like you have to feel safe within yourself to get there. So in the beginning, this can just look like we just need to get neutral about the tears. Yeah. We just need to go, oh shoot, okay, I've got some emotional energy that needs to clear. And if I can just view tears, as gross as this is, if I can view tears as just sneezing or throwing up, it's just a bodily thing that just needs to happen, right? I know, I'm sorry.
That's hilarious.
But
that's great.
But seriously, that's what it's a bodily function that comes up involuntarily in us that just needs to happen. And so if you can just be neutral with it in the beginning, it's okay if you don't feel love toward yourself yet. It's okay if that feels uncomfortable. Just be neutral. Just go, okay, can I just let myself cry and can I not judge the situation? Can I just be present in my body and let myself do this?
Exactly. So do you find that's extra helpful for people who were shamed or traumatized early on in life for crying, especially men, right? Like, let me give you something to cry about, or what's wrong with you, or it's not a big deal, or wow.
Yeah. Or people who didn't have loving relationships with their parents where like this idea of being your own parent or your own best friend is like too intangible. Like if people have a really hard time trusting other people or having the intimate relationships, sometimes we need to take almost the personification out of it. And you just need to go, okay, this is just energy that needs to clear. Like, let's make this a little bit more almost objective in the beginning so that it does feel safer. Because when you do that, when you get some practice crying, turning your brain off and like being in that, your body starts to like remember how to do it. And your brain just naturally starts getting quieter and it becomes easier to do over time. And then if we're doing that at the same time that, in other moments in our life, we're working on acknowledging ourselves. We're working on reframing the way that we think about and treat ourselves, then over time, you're just going to notice that you do feel closer to yourself when you're crying. There is a fondness that comes in. It's just kind of a natural byproduct of speaking to yourself in a kinder way. In the same way that as you're getting close to someone else that you've been doing some relationship repair on, it's not close in the beginning. If you have repair you need to do with somebody, you're rebuilding trust. But eventually, as we rebuild trust and we see, oh, they're showing up for me consistently, this is different, we do get naturally closer. It feels good to be close to that person. It feels good to care for them when they're having a hard time. It's the same thing with ourselves.
Wow. I love how you recognize where people need to start by neutralizing it and attaching neutral beliefs, for lack of a better way to say it, as opposed to fears attached to the idea of feeling my feelings or letting myself cry or letting myself have anger. What are your thoughts on just initial grief anger? Like not people staying angry. I'm not talking, because that's cognitive anyway. But what are your thoughts on anger and how, especially people who struggle to connect with their anger because maybe they grew up with a lot of anger in the home and it was scary or it was punishing or abusive or what have you?
Yeah. Anger, I put in the camp of resistance. I look at emotions and emotional experiences as being in two different categories. One of them is tender feeling, which obviously grief is in tender feeling. Anything that you're feeling where you would want to receive a hug, that's tender feeling. But then we have all of these experiences that are resistance to tender feeling. And I would put any flavor of anger, rage, irritation, agitation, frustration, any of those words. I would put blame. I would put judgment in the category of resistance. Something we don't think about that I would also put in the category of resistance is control.
Oh, yeah.
If you need to control things in order to feel better, that's resistance to your tender feeling. So when it comes to anger, when it comes to resistance and tender feeling, this is the thing we don't know. Underneath all resistant experiences and emotions is a tender feeling, 100% of the time. Resistance does not happen on its own. Anger is never hanging out on its own. It always has something underneath it that needs your attention. So just knowing that there's a part of me that feels very tender underneath if I'm angry is helpful in just bringing our awareness there. So when anger happens, I always encourage people, if you need to scream, if you need to punch a pillow, if you need to jump up and down, like do what you need to do to move that through your body. Do it safely. Don't aim it at other people. Your anger is yours. It doesn't belong to anyone else.
Right.
Anger is you resisting your own emotion. And so it doesn't belong in interactions or to be aimed at people. So try hard to gather yourself when your anger happens, separate yourself, move that through, but be looking every second that you possibly can for that tender thing because it's there.
Yeah.
We don't get angry about things we don't care deeply about.
Right.
And so if you're angry, you really care about this. So really look for where are you wanting something more for yourself or another person? Where are you feeling grief that you're watching someone be treated in a way that they don't deserve to be treated? Where is your heart hurting for the other humans, for yourself? Where are you feeling like you've run out of options? Like you don't have any resources left? Like you're feeling helpless to solve the situation? Look for a place where your human just needs some support.
Yeah.
And when we move into that, and that's our focus when anger comes in, we know anger is a mirage and we know that we're hurting. It means that anger comes through. It's like a big wave and then it passes really quickly because the better you get at this, the quicker you sink into the tender thing and the quicker you move through whatever emotions are coming up. So anger is the thing that I feel like I'm the most controversial around because people are so attached to their, especially righteous anger right now, that we feel like our righteous anger is helpful. And I always say to people, think about when you're on the other end of someone who's angry. It doesn't feel good for us to have anger aimed at us. Sure. I think that there are moments where we need to raise our voice because someone is in danger. You need to get someone's attention. Anger is a beautiful flag to get attention.
Yeah.
Momentarily. But if it continues on for more than a moment, all it does is cause damage and destruction. So allow anger to be a momentary experience. Look for that tender thing underneath. Try not to aim it at people. And also don't judge yourself for your anger. Anger is it's a protective mechanism. It's a normal part of being a person. It's okay to be angry. but it's just what we do with it.
Right. I agree with you on all those levels. Because my concern when people step over the anger and don't let themselves have it, I'm like, you can't do grief work. You're only there for a hot second.
Yep, exactly.
But it is there to show you that something is not right. The real stuff, of course, is underneath.
Yeah.
But I think people will struggle to have good boundaries between where they end and others begin if they don't at least notice this was not okay. This should never have happened to me, right?
Yep.
But and typically it dissipates as soon as we can get to the vulnerable. As people feel safe enough to be vulnerable. I mean, we're asking a lot of clients sometimes. And that's why I really like your approach, because it meets them where they are at first.
Yeah. Yes.
And lets them gradually become safer and feel safer and become safer and safer.
Yep.
So they can get to the real stuff. That's great.
Well, and I think just knowing, when we think about you can think of like those wheels that they make for kids that are like color coded and each one has like a different facial expression on them to like mad, sad, happy, excited. Like you can think of all this. We think about the dissonant emotions as being the feeling. What are you feeling? I'm feeling angry, period. Right. So many people aren't aware that there's a tender thing under there. So just the awareness that like anger is not the destination. You haven't landed the thing. You're in a layover right now. Like take a breath, get a drink of water, go to the bathroom. Right. But like you're getting on another plane. We're not done yet. So just knowing that I think is really helpful, because without that awareness, you can get stuck in the anger,
Yeah, and that's protracted grief. That's not allowing ourselves to surrender and sit in and feel all the vulnerable, scary at first to people, vulnerable, real things like shame and disappointment and sadness and self-loathing and fear and rejection and, curiosity and joy. I mean, gosh, we talk about, let me ask you this. How hard is it for your people to feel the good, like really sit in joy? Can you talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely. So Brene Brown talks about how we can't numb the bad stuff without numbing the good stuff first. And that's certainly been my lived experience. So I think one of the sweetest parts of my job is getting to sit with people that I've been working with for a while and having them expressing just like joy at being with their families in a new way, or like connecting in with someone important in their life at a deeper level because they have more presence with themselves. Like the truth, my lived experience with this work is that as I've really worked to heal and honor my own heart, and I've made space for just the depth of grief that comes up in me, I experience a depth of connection and joy that I never experienced before. One of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to this is my dad. So my dad is just one of my favorite humans walking the planet. And I find him to be already just one of the most endearing people that I've ever met. And something that I have found as I've really healed the grief, this sounds a little crazy what I'm about to say. When I've let myself sit with the grief that he's not going to be here forever.
Right.
That I don't get to know how long I have with him. For some reason that came in for me in that winter in 2021. And I really sat with the panic that my body felt that my dad wasn't going to be on the planet at some point. And I wouldn't get to know when that happened. When I let myself metabolize that and really put him in, I call it the impermanence box. It's like everything in our life is impermanent and we have this illusion that it's going to be there forever. But when you put things in that impermanence box and you go, wow, I really love you. And I love your human and I love the time we get together and this isn't forever. So I better drink in every single moment of this that I can. As I've allowed myself to really metabolize that, I have noticed just in the last couple of years that when my dad is having a conversation with someone in their community, he has such a beautiful way of meeting people exactly where they are and knowing how to connect and make jokes and make people feel comfortable. And I will just stand there and watch him and I feel like a little overcome with emotion just talking about it because the depth of love that I feel for him in tiny little moments that I would have missed before is just astounding to me. It's like, I am so in touch with how much I love him, with how endearing he is, with how grateful I am that he's my dad. And I've always felt that, but never at the level that I do. And it means that I connect with him in a different way than I ever did. And I'm so grateful for that. So our joy deepens, our connection deepens, our meaning, our fulfillment, all the beautiful, like juicy stuff that we want in our lives. It amplifies as we clear out all of this old, hard stuff that we've been carrying. And it's absolutely breathtaking. You could not pay me to go back to the way that I was before.
Right. Wow. So beautifully said. Yeah. To me, that's what it means to be truly present, is to be emotionally present.
Yeah.
Not just mindful, not just cognitive. We need to do that too. But to be able to show up and be emotionally present for ourselves. But then hilariously, that makes us 1,000 times safer for others around us, right?
Yeah.
Imagine the empathy that one can have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know
Yeah.
years and years ago, I did not have empathy until I did some serious grief work, mirror work, like you were describing earlier, all the things. The empathy came organically. One morning, literally, I woke up and I'm like, oh my goodness, how disconnected I was before. And now I can't not have compassion and understanding and perspective. So you're right. It changes the brain into thinking, wow, I do have perspective.
Yep.
And I could talk all day. I can have better perspective of me as a person and the situation and the relationship. So all the emotional work is so huge.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And that's why I think what you're doing is just extremely important.
Thank you, Mary.
You know,
it's totally changed my life. That's why I want to offer it to other people, because I have such a different emotional reality now than I used to have. Like I worked for a long time as an oncology massage therapist. And for 2 of those years, I was in a bone marrow unit and I was working with people with blood and bone cancer. And I lost so many of my patients.
Wow.
These were people that I met on their first or second day in the hospital. And they would stay in the hospital for months receiving treatment. And so I would see them like a couple times a week. I could spend as much time as I wanted with each person. So I like really got to know these people.
Right.
And I lost just one after the next, and walked them up into their transition over. And it was during that time that I had all this grief coming up that I didn't know how to fully process. This was back in like 2016, 2017. And so I was really, I took on a therapist who was so helpful for me back at that time. And she was like, Claire, you have like a slow trickle of depression underneath everything. She's like, you're really positive, like you're able to cope with it, but like there's depression under there. And at that same time, I was also finding myself ending up in the ER with anxiety attacks.
Wow.
Partially because of some of the scary stuff that I saw at work. You know, you get to see medical emergencies that you're not ready for, especially as a massage therapist. I'm not a medical professional.
Right.
And so I was really having a hard time with my brain and feeling up to my eyeballs. And I also just had no sense of self just from being person. I was like completely over-identified with whoever I was dating at the time, just like really not able to regulate myself whatsoever.
Right.
And through this process of really showing up for my own grief and really feeling through whatever is coming up and becoming my own best friend, I am so resilient when I have like any strange body stuff happen. I don't have any depression anymore. I'm so resilient to my feelings. I'm finally in my own space and not handing myself over to be in the hands of whoever I'm with. You know, I have some sovereignty now, and I never had that before. So this process, like I want to share all of that stuff because I have really struggled with my mental health in the past.
Right.
And I just don't have any of those struggles now. My life is just completely different than it was. So if I can move through and stop ending up in the ER, convinced that I have a blood clot in my leg because my knee hurts, and I can go from that to this joyful, connected place where I'm not healed by any stretch of the imagination. I'm still a person that's working through stuff, you know, like I'm living and breathing this process and continuing to show up for myself on a daily basis. Like I'm not sitting here trying to be a guru, like whatsoever, but this process is one that I've lived, that I do live, and it's completely changed things for me. And so like, that's why I want to bring it to people, because if it's worked for me, it's worth trying. Like, try it.
Oh my gosh. You answered the question that I was going to ask you. And you couldn't have answered it any better, because I was going to say, wait, but what about the people who are so afraid if they let themselves become this embodied, right? And this in touch with self? What if something bad happens and I know what they're going to say to me. They're going, well, then I'm wide open. Then I don't have any self-protection, like all the things. And you just answered that. You said, no, I'm more resilient.
Exactly.
I'm a lot more grounded.
Yep. Yeah.
That is, now that taps into everything that I've come to believe over the years, right? That the stronger the self is, and connected and integrated, like all the parts work and all that kind of stuff out there is true.
Absolutely.
Integration is the end game, right? And you're right, though, we do it every day we wake up, but you reach a place where you are connected with all the parts of you.
Yep.
Your intellectual part, your feeling part, your experience, and all the wonderful gifts that you have, that you become more resilient. So actually you can handle what comes at you better. And I think that's a huge piece.
Exactly.
That people need to know.
Exactly. The self-trust that is cultivated from this process is so huge.
Yep.
When you know, it doesn't matter what lands in my lap, it doesn't matter what comes at me, I know how to hold myself in whatever I'm feeling. It makes you so resilient. I can confidently sit here and say, it really does not matter. Anything could happen to me in my life. I don't want terrible things to happen. I'm not sitting here wishing for like any loss or anything, but I can tell you that I am 1000% confident that regardless of what today brings, what tomorrow brings, that I've got me. Even if I, go through a terrible loss or there's some big blind side that comes, I know I've got my back. I know I'm going to slow down. I know their feelings. I know they're not permanent. I know they're going to move through. I know that the more willing I am to feel it, the faster it's going to move. I actually just made a video about this the other day, talking about how much energy it takes to fight a feeling. It's so exhausting to have something that you need to feel and you haven't felt it yet. It takes so much energy to avoid it. It's so exhausting to avoid it. You find so much more relief when you're just like, oh, human, okay, let's melt. What's going on? What are we doing? And you just let yourself fall apart. Oh my gosh, it changes so quickly. You get back on your feet so much faster.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's exhausting to also keep up the false self than the real self behind it, because that's kind of also what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
And the relief that comes just from being who you are.
Yep.
And embracing who you are. So there's so many levels to this work. Yes. It goes way beyond emotions, I think.
Yeah, it's a whole different reconfiguration. I really talk about this as like you're stepping into a new relationship with yourself. This isn't just like, all right, I'm going to start doing these practices so that I stop interrupting people and I learn how to listen, so that I stop aiming my anger at other people. Like we can look at ourselves and go, I've got all these check boxes that need some improvement. And so if I do this practice, like maybe I can change this behavior. And I'm always like, we got to stop looking at ourselves that way. You're a person. Like, this is why you got to go get in front of the mirror. Like, look at that human being and go, how do I know they deserve to be treated? How do I want them to be treated? And am I treating them that way? And when we really start sitting like this with ourselves and reframing all of this work, not as work, but as like being in relationship, it feels good to take care of people you're in relationship with. It's not a box that you check. It's like part of the meaningful experience in your life. And so that's really what I'm inviting people into here, which is deep. It's the deepest stuff that we do to cultivate a deeper relationship with ourselves. So it does go far beyond just feeling your feelings.
It really does. And so much of this work, like you're saying, is inside out. We will give to others more organically once we heal things with ourselves. Exactly. Once we get things straight with ourselves, because I watch it happen. I watch people do it.
If you're uncomfortable with your feelings and you distract yourself when you're feeling something deeply, you might not realize it, but you're definitely doing that to other people. You don't have space for other people if you don't have space for yourself. So 100% what you're saying. Yes.
Right. Exactly. Such good stuff. Thank you for that. It really gives us a sense of how you got to this work, how you help people in what you do, and why your work matters so much. So how can people reach you, Claire? And, what kind of work can they do with you? What does that look like structurally?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm on social media. If you want longer videos, I have some teaching videos on YouTube. Intuitive Emotional Healing is where you can find me on there. Certainly on Instagram, also Intuitive Emotional Healing. The place where I have the most fun, and I think you get to see the most of me, is TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is Intuitive Emotional Healing. But at the end of intuitive, there's an E, and the beginning of emotional, there's an E. So there's two E's next to each other. On TikTok, you got to take out one of those E's. Okay. So
Okay.
It's Intuitive Emotional Healing, but missing an E. So TikTok is a fun place to follow me because I feel like I put the most stuff up there. But if you want to dive into this work, if you want to really start to dive into your relationship with yourself and really get into this, there are really two good ways right now to do that with me. One is in a one-on-one, which I do over Zoom, or if you live in Maine and you want to have an in-person session, we can do that. But those look like talk therapy at first. Our first session is us talking about where you came from and what's important to you and, what you're needing support with. But then the focus obviously is always on how do we metabolize the feelings that are there and bring awareness to them, and how do we apply this intuitive emotional healing framework to what's happening in your life. So it's a different orientation, but looks a lot like talk therapy. So that's one way you can schedule one-on-one with me. Perhaps the easiest way, I think the most supportive way to learn this framework is to join the Conscious Heart Academy, which is my online classroom and community. I host 6 live Zoom sessions every month. Some of them are workshops. 2 of them are what I call work through it sessions, where people come in and they bring sticky stuff that they've tried to work through on their own, but they're only getting so far and they can't seem to get past this one thing. They'll bring in those situations and we just go one by one and work through them in front of the group. And the thing I love about that is, one, everyone loves these sessions because you get to hear such human stories and relate to one another. But then also, it's so fascinating to me how so many people in the group will be like, wow, that story actually really closely resembles what I was going to talk about. And it's like everybody gets to learn. Talk about emotional intimacy in a group. My community is still small and we all really know each other. And so you really get seen, which is a lovely thing. The other thing that I love about the Conscious Heart Academy is that I've put together a pretty thorough emotional healing resource library. And so it's step-by-step videos, infographics. I have transcripts of pretty much every video that's up there, all these different tools so that 24/7 you can go into the community and you can access whatever you're needing to support you where you are. If you need help because you can feel tears coming on, but you feel like I can't cry by myself yet, what do? I've got step-by-step stuff to hold your hand. If you need help, really giving yourself an equal seat at the table and reorganizing the way you look at yourself so that you're not diminishing yourself and lifting up others, I've got, hour and a half long workshops that are broken up there for you to give yourself, it's called rehumanizing yourself, giving yourself an equal seat at the table. So there's all sorts of resources in there.
Cool.
And I think the last thing that I love about that community is that if you're having a hard time and you've accessed resources, you've come to the live sessions and you're having a hard time, you send a message asking for the support you need. And I'm the one who answers it. I don't have a team. You're not getting other people.
Oh,
you're
cool.
getting me.
Right.
If you need help with something, I got you.
That's great.
So it's a very intimate little space still. But especially if you're the only person in your friend group, in your circles who is doing this work, it can feel so lonely and isolating. And this group of folks is doing it. They're open, they're supportive, and they're speaking that language. And I can't tell you how healing for me as a facilitator, so healing for me to be in that group. This group adds as much to my life as I feel like it adds to the lives of the people who are in there. So again, that's the Conscious Heart Academy. And to learn more about that or book a one-on-one session or learn more about any of this work, you can go to my website, which is intuitive-emotional-healing.com.
Thank you. Yeah, I so believe in the power of the group. Wow. The belongingness, the safety, the learning, all the above, and how it's intimate enough where you can help people personally, I think is really important, especially because this can seem terrifying to people to imagine. They want to do it, but they're afraid to do it. They want to do it and they're afraid to do it. And you have set up a community and I think a place to come where it's safe to do some very vulnerable work. And that's huge.
Yeah.
Because people want to heal. They really do. And they try all the things and they read all the things.
Yeah.
And they're still frustrated. And that's why I think your work is so important. And this will not be the last time you will be on my show if you're so inclined. Because I think, as we're talking today, I'm thinking of all these other situationships that people can be in and experiences that I would want to get into as well. Because they may define themselves like, what comes up for me is, childhood trauma or narcissistic abuse in relationships or all the things out in the world that I think might be helpful as well.
I'd love to. Yeah, let's do it.
So thank you so much for being here today, Claire. Guys, check her out. Go find her stuff and do some great healing work on yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Claire, for sharing with us the important work that you do to help people reconnect with their feelings and why it matters so much and how it makes such huge changes in their life. Make sure you check out Claire at intuitiveemotionalhealing.com or her videos on Instagram and TikTok, because I think her little nuggets of wisdom are great to take with you. And I have all of her information in the show notes. If you want to do some deeper work around feelings, check out her Conscious Heart Academy there. And if you want to work on boundaries and other adjacent aspects to the work, the links to all of my courses and offerings are in the show notes as well. You deserve for life to get better. You deserve to heal. And you deserve to love sitting in your own skin. All right, so pay it forward. Keep focusing on you. And I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.